Hey, it's Sonia, and welcome to the Marta podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Marta podcast. I am beyond delighted to sit down here and have the chance to tackle a topic that I've barely briefly touched before in my episode with Kelly Lundberg, which is fashion. Now, my episode today goes out to all the students that are keen on finding out how to survive and thrive in the world of fashion. If you listen to this podcast and if you watch it on YouTube, then you would instantly tell me that you want to know how to survive the fashion industry. Because as Ilyssa describes it in the episode, it's a highly adaptable and ever-changing industry where you need to be spontaneous and adaptable every week, if not every month, for the trends that are shifting so constantly to keep up with the sheer amount of stuff happening and going on. Another thing that Ilyssa touched upon this episode that I feel like really hit home was the fact that you need to be persistent and not give up on your dreams. Now, I want to give you a short backstory right before I introduce who Ilyssa is and why I chose her to be on today's podcast. And this is because spring is coming. We've reached the second quarter of 2025, and spring is a season and a time of change. And with the rain currently happening right outside my room as I'm recording this episode, I wanted to tell you that it's okay to go through bad times. Remember that if someone treats you badly or you encounter an unpleasant situation, if that was because of a person and how they treated you that affected you and your attitude, it's actually because that person themselves could be experiencing a bad day, or they're going through something right now and they're letting the outside world get affected by it and they're unleashing their energy around them, and you just happen to be part of that environment. So I just want to tell you that spring is a time of change. You've got this. Hang in there. And recently, I've watched this Instagram reel that Ries Witherspoon posted. I want to reference it here from her brilliant, amazing friend as she said it, because it's amazing. Her friend's advice is amazing. So here's what Ries Witherspoon said. If you think you can do it, or if you think you can't do it, you're right. Now, how's that for a game of mindset? And I just want to keep that focus and mindset shift as we enter this new era of new beginnings and opportunities, and say that I'm so delighted to finally go to Zurich for my first experience of hands-on. Because as Ilyssa says in her podcast, growth happens outside your comfort zone. You have to step out from what you are experiencing now to finally experience change, to experience that growth. So without further ado, I'm beyond delighted to introduce who Ilyssa is. Picture this: from Wall Street to Miami Swim Week to New York Fashion Week to Paris Fashion Week to Milan Fashion Week, all of the key dates of fashion, Ilyssa has gone through it all, and here's what I mean by it. Ilyssa Wexler is a powerhouse entrepreneur, educator, and the visionary founder of Fashion for Futures. She's originally from New York and now based in Florence, Italy. Ilyssa has dedicated her career to bridging the gap between fashion education and real-world business experiences. With over 2 decades of entrepreneurial success and a strong background in Wall Street as a top sales leader, Ilyssa brings a rare combination of business expertise and creative passion to the fashion industry. Since founding Fashion for Futures in 2016, she has empowered countless students by providing them with the essential tools to build professional portfolios, develop business strategies, and launch their own fashion careers or brands. In addition to leading her own company, Ilyssa is a professor at the Fashion Institute of Technology in Florence and has taught at prestigious institutions like Columbia University's pre-college program. Her approach goes beyond technical skills. She focuses on mentorship, offering students backstage access to the major global fashion events and fostering both their creative and business acumen. Under her guidance, students gain real-world insights, preparing them for success at top fashion houses or as independent designers. Ilyssa's focus on entrepreneurship and portfolio development ensures her students are not only talented, but business savvy, ready to make their mark in the competitive fashion landscape. I would like to take a quick moment now to thank our sponsor for this episode, CGS Romania. If you're looking to take your career to the next level, CGS is the place to be. With over 8,000 employees worldwide, CGS is a global leader offering exciting career opportunities in technology, customer service, and business solutions. They invest in professional growth, providing continuous skill development in an international work environment. If you're ready to grow your career and explore opportunities at CGS today, find out more details below at www.romania.cgsin.com. All right, and now here's our discussion. Ilyssa Wexler, former Wall Street top female sales leader, entrepreneur, CEO, professor at the Fashion Institute of Technology. Where can I even start? Over 2.5 decades that you have spent in the business industry and gathering all that you have acquired from both the fashion side and the business side. If you could start by telling the listener what your top 3 things that you learned to thrive in this world and ever adapting industry, what you've learned.
3 things that I've learned pertaining to what I've been doing, particularly in the industry for fashion for futures, I would say 1 is the importance of resilience and adaptability. Whether it's finance or fashion, any type of success comes with persistence and learning from your failures. That's something I've definitely learned. The power of immersive learning, so actually having firsthand experiences can be a complete game changer for your career. And then again, kind of spinning off that, how to use a real world experience. Fashion is much more than just creativity. It's also very much about business. So it's understanding the networking and the opportunities that are involved in the field and how to utilize them to help yourself. So those would be the 3 things. Yeah.
Absolutely. And when we talk about adaptability, I think it cannot be stressed enough, especially in the world of fashion, which is an ever-changing field that trends come and go by months, if not even weeks, depending on the season. Where I want to take you first is your company, Fashion for Futures, which operates during the 4 busiest seasons in regards to fashion during the year, which are New York Fashion Week, Paris Fashion Week, and Milan Fashion Week, as well as Miami Swim Week. And your whole company values focuses on providing the students with hands-on backstage experiences that can not only provide them with the tools that they need to get a sense of what it really is like to be in there, but also networking experiences, which is very crucial when we're talking about the fashion world. My question for you now, Ilyssa, is how do these events shape their understanding of the fashion industry?
Well, first, they're going from production, they're learning about production, to runway execution, which is pretty much getting the 360-degree view of what fashion is in a few short days. Some of the, I would say, essential skills they learn are from the professionals and the industry professionals that they meet behind the scenes, the workshops, and, on the runway, and representation, styling, and then the crucial connections that they're making. I mean, fashion is built on relationships, and those relationships and these events open up doors. So if you're not able to go to these types of events or have the access to it, it's incredibly difficult to get into the industry and stay there.
Absolutely. And I think it's actually those relationships that you make in whatever field now, when we're talking about the importance of networking and communication. They're those people that carry your name into rooms that you haven't even been in. They're those people that carry your reputation forward and present them to, let's say, another opening opportunity that can open more doors for you and create this ripple effect that can provide, in this case, fashion students or current students that are at the Fashion for Futures program, ways to really get hands-on and try their projects if they liked what they experienced, if they like to go forward. And I'm really curious if you could go ahead and I'm going to give you this challenge. In 1 minute, if you could explain the values of Fashion for Futures and why you think it's an experience that every child interested in fashion or questioning if they want to go into this industry should take?
I'm going to be so bold as to say that values have changed across the board when it comes to business and generations. However, something that hasn't changed, particularly in the fashion industry, and we saw this during the COVID era when there wasn't actually runways and they were doing everything online, that just didn't work. And that the fashion industry, no matter how much money they might be throwing away, or people think that they're throwing away, which, well, they are wasteful, that these types of events and networking is something that isn't going to change, even with Caring Group and the luxury groups losing money. So they're going to find ways to revamp the brands in order to ensure that they can have their spotlight. And that's what the industry is about. So the values that we give to the students are more in the sense of understanding how to bridge the gap between generations, per se, and learning, what that communication looks like so that they can get internships, get jobs, and keep them. But not just keep them, smile, have a good time, not feel like they're just a workhorse or being used in the industry, or that they're working, a million hours and not getting anything in return. The idea is once you get that access to be able to show your skills and then get something back for it.
Absolutely. And I'm curious if I can go deeper into this, how actually the company was founded, where your inspiration came from. What made you wake up one day and say, I want to create this innovative platform that can provide the students with a backstage access and really show them what it's like, really see if it's what they're asking for and if it's what they want to pursue later on in their life?
My company did not start this way. The company started actually as a way for me to get home, because I was living in Italy and I saw that Italians had a gap in language and that they needed to learn English. And I used it as a way to get them really excited about going to New York and focusing, instead of just learning English, I decided to focus at learning English for the fashion industry, which is something that Italy is obviously very dominant in the fashion industry. So that's how it started. And I kind of used this unique perspective to spin off of that using my connections from Wall Street and my life in New York. And I saw a huge gap in the fashion education industry, going from theory to practice. And I don't like being told that I can't. So, it was somebody basically said, oh, you'll never get them backstage. And that was that. And then I did. And that was right before COVID. And then I was down for 2 years. And while I was down, instead of being down, I networked. And I got on LinkedIn. And I contacted everybody. And I had Zoom calls. And I created an online course. And I worked my butt off during that period. And as soon as COVID started closing, I opened Milan. And then after Milan, I opened Paris. And it's been a process. I'm still in the process of finding universities, opening pre-college. I run a hairstyling section to my business. So it's morphing, it's growing, but the core of it is that Fashion for Futures, gives opportunities to students and professionals who want to grow, who want to be in the industry. And most of all, we create access to that. So my inspiration was giving something different from the traditional education look during a period that was incredibly difficult to access, and challenging myself to see if I could do it.
I'm really curious, listening to what you've got to say. What is your favorite thing about what you do on a daily basis in terms of running Fashion for Futures?
Listen, I love being on tour. It's just something that I really love. I love being with the students. I love being with the professionals, and I love being backstage and running the production side of things. It reminds me a lot of my past life in finance. So that's my favorite part. My day-to-day is my constant being in touch and working with students and talking to them about their portfolios and mentorship, and really helping them with their resumes, getting them ready for or admission into business and or fashion school, or helping them find internships. So I get to kind of do the behind the scenes with them, see how they work, help them have something that they can access and put in their portfolio. And then, depending if they want, work with me afterwards to really build off that, and then see the final result. Watching them get really awesome jobs is very cool. Yeah.
And you mentioned that actually your favorite part is this time traveling to the actual runways and the backstage.
I love that.
And when I contacted you, you were recently just closing off Paris Fashion Week. So I want to take you back in time to that time and make you think about your favorite highlight that you had during this particular session. If there's something that stood out in terms of student experience that you've seen someone stand out, do something that stand out.
Yeah. So I would say every runway, New York, Milan, Paris, there's always standouts. There's always something that happens because it's insane. It's totally crazy. Nothing goes as planned. But again, that's where the adaptability. This time in particular, we were working the Max Hosa show, which was on the fashion calendar, and I had students from Amsterdam Academy with me. This was a new collaboration. They were incredible. And one of the students, we were very late with the presentation, and because being on the fashion calendar, the brands are back to back. If you want public relations to come and be on time, you have to be on time. So we were really late for lineup, and one of the students came up with an idea to dress them anyway and put trash bags over the models so that they could do makeup. And it was just one of those light bulb moments where you're like, yeah, do it. Go to the kitchen and get huge trash bags and cut them. And they did, and that was awesome watching them cover the models with trash bags. Because it just, it showed that they didn't, fold under pressure. They weren't like, oh my God, this isn't going to happen. We screwed up. Forget it. It's over now. They were just like, okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? Because no matter what, we have to make this work. And that's the go-to attitude that the fashion industry needs and looks for, with smiles on their face, which was also incredible. So yeah, that definitely stood out.
And this does sound like something that would spark your interest in the terms of the spontaneity of their creativity and how fast they adapted, getting back to the idea of adaptability. And now I'm curious if you could tell me off the top of your head, what characteristics or behaviors would your favorite student embody? Are they outgoing, or are they seeking to take initiative?
So I've already said smiling, because I find that incredibly necessary. I think just a positive outlook and attitude, even when it's not looking so good, is really nice to be around. So that to me is the first and foremost. It's a vibe. People that just smile. That's first. The second I would say would be strategic thinking, solution oriented. Students who are not just about gimme, let me find a connection no matter what, but give me a connection that's valuable. Let's find a solution, and then in return, I'm going to be rewarded. Not the other way around of let me be rewarded first, and then I'm going to give you, positive behavior. So this to me makes a huge difference, and I see that the industry professionals look at this a lot differently, specifically when it comes to internships and hiring.
And I think it's also because they look forward past and beyond the short term, let's say, happiness of I have new connections, I feel like I'm already in the actual industry and the flow of things, but they look forward to possible, let's say, partnerships or part-time mentorships that they can advise with each other with. And I want to take you now to your experience with this immersive and real-world exposure that you provide with your company for students. If there is any standout moment from all these students that have come and went, whose career really took off because of their time at Fashion for Futures.
I mean, I've had a lot of standout students over the years. I've had students who have gotten into law school. I've got students that have gotten into PR firms. I've gotten students that have, gotten internships in really, big companies. I have many of them, and I feel really fortunate for that. I've knock on wood, I've had really great groups. University of Alabama has been some of the most incredible students that I've ever met, honestly, for the New York trip. And they really focus on public relations, and they've been incredible and gotten internships with different companies there. So one standout is really difficult. I can say, though, that in particular, the students that really hone in on their business portfolios, presentation, and really practice their interviewing skills have a much better chance at doing things. It's not just the backstage experience. It's utilizing the backstage experience in order to go after and get what they want. And to get what they want is a job. They have to continually go after that. It's not that they just send one cover letter or one portfolio. They have to be able to make adjustments. They have to be able to be adaptable, to make sure that they're getting what they want. And that takes time and patience. And sometimes some students just can't.
And you mentioned twice now the importance of focusing not only on the actual fashion aspect, but the business side of it all that I guess can get overlooked by some students. I want to take you now into your expertise in the business industry because of it, and especially with everything that you've learned over the years in your Wall Street background and with your entrepreneurial experience here at your company, and really ask you, how has your business expertise influenced the way that you mentor future fashion leaders?
I mean, I believe that my background in financial literacy truly has helped propel my company in the right direction and also kind of soaring. My approach to fashion education is quite different from a design perspective. So I look at things about, okay, that's beautiful. Is it beautiful as a consumer? Would I wear that? Is it practical? Is it going to make any money? I look at it that way. I also see people, human, as, are they just a designer? Is that what they're good at? But can they sell their designs? And if they can't, are they going to be able to hire somebody who can do that? What does their brand look like? And do they have a strategic business plan that's going to get them to where they want to be? Or are they just estimating that they're going to make $1 million their first year because they think that they can get those likes on TikTok? How do we translate and analyze those numbers? And that's where the financial literacy comes in. Understanding margins and branding is critical. That would be where I feel my perspective is really seeing it from a different standpoint rather than just fashion. Business is incredibly important, and having those skills to be able to discuss, because there's marketing, there's so many buying, there's so many different merchandising, actually, even there's so many different ways that students can fit into the fashion industry, including from the financial perspective. So I believe that this program really gives them more of that. There are so many programs for design students in some ways. If you want to go and you want to sketch and do all of that, there's some incredible programs on the market that really cover that. Business-wise, practical real world, where you're not just sitting in a classroom, but you're actually at Fashion Week, I'd like to see some of my competitors, to be honest. It's incredibly difficult to do the scheduling, to find the people that will talk to the students during this period, align the schedule, include the backstage time, have them do the portfolios. So it's not so easy to copycat or saturate the market with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you mentioned that a student, especially with everything that you provide for them at Fashion for Futures, the best ones, especially at the University of Alabama students that went to the New York Fashion Week, what was best in them is that they went beyond just their interest in fashion and having the spontaneity, the creativity, but actually having great interview skills, looking forward to public relations, and having a portfolio, which is where I want to take you next, because having a CV or something that people can easily access is a key focus for your programs. And my question to you now, Ilyssa, is what are the essential elements of a person that stands out for a fashion portfolio? And what's your favorite tip or advice to guide these students in crafting it?
So the course that I personally teach during Fashion for Futures experience is predominantly based on how to use the experience where they are to put inside their portfolio, all the different aspects of the trip. And that is incredibly helpful. Mentoring wise, a standout portfolio that I recommend should have diversity, concept development, and real world projects and case studies. So this is incredibly important for business school and for fashion school. They really want to see that. Usually, as I said, what I do on site for that course is focus on where they are and what they're doing so that they can put that inside their portfolio. But again, the students that don't have a portfolio yet, working with them on those aspects and trying to help curate their portfolios with them is something that we do as well.
You've launched Fashion for Futures in 2016, which makes it just about 10 years now. And my question is the trends that you've observed. How have you seen the fashion education landscape evolve over these past years, especially with this rise of virtual learning and digital fashion platforms?
There are two things. One, I've seen that the market has become incredibly saturated. There are a lot of different private academias offering a lot of things to students, charging a lot of money that are not necessarily giving value. And again, I go back to the beginning of this conversation that if a student doesn't have access during one of the most critical times during the calendar year of the fashion industry, there's no way for them to learn the skills that they need to in order to be successful in the industry. So it doesn't matter where that program is. I've seen and I've spoken to students that have said sometimes they just don't know what's real anymore, what's real or what's fake. They get very nervous. They don't want to sign up for stuff because they just don't know who people are anymore and they don't want to get ripped off. There's more accessible education, meaning online master classes and digital workshops, but they're not giving anything. And because, again, it's so incredibly saturated, they've lost their value. So students are a little bit, they don't know really where to go with that. And then I would also say because sustainability is becoming a priority, students are more interested in ethical fashion now more than ever. And there's not a lot of resources for them with that. So again, it's about trust. It's about choosing people who are able to do it, who have done it, who are doing it, who have some type of success rate and analytics, and understanding if you're going to choose your time to go and you really want to understand what the industry is about, you should go during the craziest time before you invest in going into any type of program or taking any type of course. Makes sense. It's what I would tell my kids to do. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
And the whole reason why I approached you actually to do this recording, to get you on my podcast, was because I was interested in doing exactly what Fashion for Futures does. Having hands-on experience, which is rare to find, and all that time outside the classroom where you actually have exposure with real industry professionals and leaders. And I saw you on the page of Immerse as a co-tutor, which is what made me reach out to you. So now this question comes more in relation to that and to what you have seen across your competitors. So my question is, what advice would you give to high school students that are looking forward to choosing a summer camp but do not know where to go in terms of what you said before, credibility, or if they are looking for something more hands-on in terms of experience, where to go?
So in general, I would say that students should look for, again, hands-on experiences, not just lectures. I've noticed that there are a lot of lecture summer camps. And then I think what the universities do is they just propel and use their names. And then the students use those names on their resumes, and that's what they're paying for. But that's boring, if we're being truly honest. So there's that. Networking opportunities. So what does that mean? Because I think that a lot of students get confused when we talk about networking opportunities. They think, okay, I pay for the program, that means I have access and I get an internship and I get a job. No. Networking opportunities means access to a group of individuals that are open to the idea that you could possibly have an internship or do something in the future for them, depending on if you fit in the organization and your character. So I think choosing an organization or a company that doesn't promise the world, that doesn't promise internships, that doesn't say you're going to do the program and you're going to get a job with this, I think I would choose them. Because it means that one, you're going somewhere where there's probably more opportunity because they have more access and more relationships. If somebody tells you that you can definitely get in an internship, they're probably paying that person to make sure that they have a certain number of people that can get in, and you're going to be either one of them or you're not. So it's really kind of reading between the lines and understanding that. And then again, portfolio building activities. Anything you choose should develop something that you can showcase. And if they're not able to help you showcase what you're doing, you shouldn't go. Otherwise, go to a fun camp, like where you swim. And I mean, you don't remember those, but I do.
I do, yeah.
Something that's, has nothing to do with education, but just like you have bonfires and stuff and roast marshmallows. There's that. Listen, I'm not going to lie and say I don't highly recommend my programs. I highly recommend my programs because I built them for exactly against all the things that I saw that weren't going well. Are they perfect for every student? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I've been incredibly lucky because somehow I have some type of like weeding out thing. I mean, some students will come to me and say, I can do it myself. I can get backstage myself. And I say, go for it. If you can do it, do it. The difference is that I'm not a placement service. I curate an experience for them. I do everything, for the student. I give them the access, the hotels, the area, the metro, the maps, the places to go. And then the student has to kind of take all of that, research, and make it work for themselves. As opposed to doing it all themselves, showing up somewhere, not knowing what to do, taking a few Instagram photos, just saying that you were there, and leaving. So I'm not for everybody. But New York pre-college is strong. It's a weekend program. It's for high school students. And it doesn't interrupt the week schedule, and they don't have to stay in New York City if they don't want to. So, it's accommodating for real programs, accommodate the needs of the students to make it work, to make sure that no matter what they're doing, they walk away with something tangible so that they can do it so it doesn't become something more stressful. That's what they should look for.
Yeah. And I want to take you into the whole art of networking and how you can communicate more efficiently and effectively, because there's a quote that I said previously that your network is worth more than your net worth.
Yes.
And I completely stand by it because I feel like it's in today's world, quote that can make you realize that actually we're living in a all-changing, fast-paced world where realizing where you are and really connecting with the people around you is how you're gonna get success quicker and really get those opportunities that you want, because at the end of the day, it's all about relationships. Those will strengthen the bonds that can get you to where you want to go. So networking, as you've said before, plays a very vital role in the fashion industry. It can get you backstage for once and then into those internships that are very important for the second part. And my question is, what habit would you or practice would you give to students that are looking forward to make themselves better as a person in communicating, about building meaningful industry connections and seizing those opportunities that are presented?
First and foremost, I think that not all students in fashion are extroverts. So, I think that there's this nervous factor of, so they're really important because I see them on Instagram and they have so many followers. They must be really important. So I just don't even know what to say to them. I think the first thing is to remember that everybody is human. Everybody started somewhere, and it doesn't matter how many followers somebody has, they still cry in the bathroom by themselves, okay? It's really, really important to remember that we're all human, okay? So that's the first thing. The second thing is about just education and respect. So when somebody's older than you, that means, hopefully, that they've had more experiences than you. And in that sense, it's like giving your seat to an older person type thing. Learning that type of value and respect really moves mountains, specifically in the fashion industry and business. That means extending your hand for an outreach, introducing yourself, not using any, vulgar language to try to fit in, to be cool. Just really being professional and respectful and proactive, so without being creepy. There's learning how to do that. Going and attending industry events and introducing yourself, or having a business card, or being completely honest and just saying, hey, I'm a student and, I'm here and I'm so happy that I'm here and I'm trying to make connections. I'm trying to be real in this world. I love what you do. And understand who you're speaking to, choose something about them, understand, and then try to speak to them. Or instead of asking for help from someone, show value first, help them, and then ask for something. And then of course it's about staying in touch and follow up, which I think I've noticed with students is incredibly difficult. We don't stay, I'm not talking about staying in touch through Instagram or TikTok or following up an hour later. I'm talking about an email, because nobody answers their phones and it's weird to send a message via text. So it's really about email and following up, and even it's a few days later and say, hi, I met you at the event. I introduced myself. This is the university, or this is the school that I attend. I really love what you do. Highlight that one piece that you're really interested about. Offer your value, why you can offer the value, close it up. And, don't get discouraged when they don't write back. Send it to someone else, or send it again. Like I would say 2 weeks later. Okay. And if they're still not answering you, there's got to be a moment where you shut the door. It doesn't mean that you're not important. Yeah. It doesn't mean that you're not good. It doesn't mean that you're never going to get into their organization. I can tell you this. I had interviews when I was at university that totally turned me down. And then years later, I got offered positions at the top at the same companies. It does happen. It did happen to me. It's not something fake. So you just have to keep going. Don't get discouraged.
Yeah. And the two most important things that you've said there that I feel like I should repeat would be respectful and proactive. Having those two qualities, especially in today's generation, if we're talking about students, can so much set you apart from all the rest of the people. Ilyssa, now I want to take you into the Marta podcast traditions, following up with two questions. My first question for you would be a question about the literature world, because I love to read. Behind me, I have a full library of books. My question for you now is, what are your top 2 books that you would say completely transformed your life, or the perspective of which you see through?
I'll talk more on a book that I think is really, really good for somebody in the fashion industry that's crucial. Okay. One would be, I would say, The Psychology of Money. So understanding finance and breaking it down in a practical, inspiring way is incredibly important. So that will help you with pricing. It helps you with, really understanding that world. So I do believe that understanding finance is incredibly critical. So that's one book. And then I would say the other one for anybody who's trying to build up a business in the industry, because I hear a lot of students that they really want to be entrepreneurs. I would say The Lean Startup by Ries. Also because what he really teaches about is adaptability and innovation. And that's what we've been talking about this whole podcast. Adaptability is incredibly important. And I also think something that we're starting to lack, because we have access to so many things so fast that when we don't get something, we just give up. And that's not a proper quality to have in order to be successful, whether it's in fashion or business or any industry. You need to be adaptable and you need to ride with the times. For sure.
Yeah. For sure. So I just wanted to say those twice, another time, in case the listener wants to hear them or didn't hear it at first. That would be number 1, The Psychology of Money, which I also recommend. And finance is, I think, important in all areas, especially for fashion, where so often, and I have these experiences in my family as well, where it's a very entrepreneurial world. People in fashion can often start their own line, or if we're talking about people of higher, let's say, status, like celebrities is what I'm talking to now, or singers, they often might also start their own line of fashion, or especially influencers. I have a couple of examples that in my head right now. And the second book that you said is The Lean Startup, which is another book about business, which I think really can help students understand that side of fashion that is actually very crucial, like you mentioned multiple times. And Ilyssa, my last question for you now is the tradition of the Smarter podcast, where I asked my previous guest to leave a question behind for the next one. So my last guest, Joel Zeff, left over this question for you. If a leader could do one thing to help their team find their passion, what would it be?
I would encourage people to take action before they feel ready. I mean, the fashion world moves incredibly fast. Opportunities don't wait. Whether it's just reaching out to somebody in the industry, applying for the internship, starting a project, growth happens outside of your comfort zone. So, that's how I lead, by pushing.
I love your answer. Growth happens outside your comfort zone. And I think, especially in fashion here, from my experience, you're never gonna feel ready to do something. Oftentimes. Maybe sometimes you will, but most of the time you won't. And so taking the initiative, thinking that actually you stand upon your values and you trust who you are, and you've got those relationships who believe in you, or that circle of friends that encourages you and believes in the same passion that you have, is enough of a message to tell you that actually, if your gut tells you that you're not ready, on paper you are. So go for it.
A lot of students just never feel ready. That's what they tell me. They don't have enough experience, they don't have this, they don't have that. There's nothing that I've done in my life that I was ready for. Nothing, actually. Jumping is everything. Yeah.
I agree. And I started the podcast with you talking with a listener, asking you about 3 things that cover, let's say, your expertise. I want to end the episode in the same way. So if you could talk directly with a listener, Ilyssa, what is one habit or practice or idea that you would like to leave them with?
I think it goes in line with everything that we've been saying. Be persistent. Be persistent. Don't give up on your dreams just because it's hard. Thank yourself a little bit for what you do every day, even when it's hard, and give yourself breaks to when you need a day off, you need a day off mentally. Take it. Shut down. That's fine. And then restart in the best way that you know how. Yeah. The persistent success comes from being persistent in the right positive way.
Success comes from being persistent in the right positive way. I love that sentence. I think I'm going to use it for one of my quotes. And Ilyssa Wexler, I'd like to thank you for being on the Smarta podcast. It has been a pleasure talking with you, and I truly wish you the best of luck with the next round and lineup of students for the next fashion weeks, and the best of luck also with Fashion for Futures.
Thank you so much for having me. This was awesome. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. I hope you've enjoyed this episode where Ilyssa talks about these 3 main topics: resilience, networking, and immersive learning experiences for students. Ilyssa discussed about the founding of Fashion for Futures, how it came to be, and why it's so important, especially if I'm talking now to a person that's got me in their headphones or watching me on YouTube that's a student and they're looking forward to go to a pre-college university program or is interested in a summer course, to go beyond just the name of where the program is held in and really look. Your time there can be used to create something that you can use for your portfolio to show that you've done real hand experience, that you've done something hands-on in whatever it is that you're interested in, be that medicine or psychology or literature or international affairs. Didn't quite catch the 2 books that Ilyssa described as completely changing the lens through which she views life. I'll quickly repeat them now. The first one is the psychology of money, and the second one is the lean startup. Both are linked down below, and you can check them out if you want to buy them and read them for your own to have your own transformative, different change in your life. And I'd like to thank you for listening to this episode because it shows me that you're really interested in getting your career ready, settling yourself up for success as soon as you go to university so you can bloom when you get there, not when you finally get out of it and got your bachelor's degree, but right when you finish high school. And it shows me that you're also a person that looks to improve themselves. With that being said, I could quickly ask you a favor, and that is if you could please rate this podcast 5 stars because it keeps helping me bring amazing podcast guests on here that share valuable content with you and help you figure out what next steps to take to your journey and path to slowly getting to where your dream life is. And with that being said, I'd like to thank you for listening to this episode of the Smart Podcast. I'm Sonia Marta and I'm the host. And if nobody told you this today, I want to be the first that tells you that I believe in you and your ability to create the life of your dreams.